first of all, I would just like to put it in context. Copenhagen is 15th session of the Conference of the Parties of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the 5th session of what we call the COP15, which, contrary to what one might believe, is not something to clean the house with, but is the meeting of the parties to the Kyoto Protocol. Now, this means that this convention has been in force, has entered into force 15 years ago, in 1995, as a matter of fact. And that the protocol, which was negotiated in 1997 and entered into force, I think in 2005, when we started, and that's why it's the 5th meeting of the Kyoto Protocol meeting of parties. Which means what? That we have been doing something contrary to what one might believe for the past 15 years for climate change. We have done a lot of something. But what was the importance of Copenhagen? The importance of Copenhagen was that the expectations were raised for Copenhagen precisely because of the 4th assessment report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which, after so many assessment reports, that is the 4th, and if you know that the IPCC has a 4-year cycle, 4 times 4 would be 16 years. First assessment report, we negotiated the convention. Second assessment report, we negotiated the protocol, which is a quantification of the mitigation commitments of developed countries under the convention. When they say that developing countries have no commitments under the Kyoto Protocol, well, they have no commitments under the convention, and the Kyoto Protocol only quantifies the commitments of developed countries under the convention, mitigation commitments. And third assessment report, we went through what we call the Marrakesh negotiations, Marrakesh Accords, and we were hoping that we were going to have something perhaps more substantial in Copenhagen that would mean the full implementation of the convention. So that's the introduction to what we were doing. The other thing that one must keep in mind is, why are these negotiations so difficult? First of all, because your presence here also attests to that, is that it covers all aspects of life. I remember I am now based in Geneva. I am a former career diplomat. And I have been asked by ILO, by WHO, by UNHCR, of course, ILO, to brief them about the current negotiations so that they will find how to really get themselves involved in the process. So everybody is concerned, and in particular, of course, the Philippines, in all throughout my negotiating years. I have also worked very closely at national level with some of you who are here, as a matter of fact, on an interagency mechanism, a very effective at that point, interagency mechanism that works for development of Philippine positions on climate change. Because the interagency mechanism, the interagency committee on climate change, based at DNR and co-chaired between the Department of Science and Technology, PAGASA in particular, Meteorological Office, and DNR. So there has always been, well, I don't know now, there is a new legislation, there has always been an interagency mechanism, a national mechanism, comprising all relevant stakeholders, including academia, civil society, and of course all the relevant agencies of government, to develop Philippine positions on climate change. It puts this in context because Copenhagen is not a one-time affair. It's the end of a long process. And if the process doesn't end there, it will continue, certainly. And in the course of my presentation, I would also like to dispel perhaps some of the misconceptions that have been put forward about climate change. I've already done one, and that is why the developing countries do not have any commitments under the Kyoto Protocol, because that is not meant for the Kyoto Protocol agreement. That's meant for developed country, and that is the quantification of Articles 4.2a and 4.2b of the Convention. The other is that, and perhaps we can have now the first one, why Copenhagen failed. The other myth that is being brought about is that it's the intergovernmental process that has failed in Copenhagen. The UN multilateral process has failed. I would like to demonstrate to you this afternoon that what has failed, that Copenhagen has failed precisely because it did not follow the intergovernmental process. You are, most of you here, all of you, I believe, working with the UN agencies, and you know the UN processes, and this, therefore, you know that there are possibilities, always, everywhere. There was, there were, there are, and there will be possibilities for states to come together and agree on what are their common interests together that will move them together forward. Copenhagen failed because of the failure to follow the UN intergovernmental process and not the other way around. Why do I say the conspiracy began in COP11, Montreal, Canada? When it was made clear that the developing countries, and I speak from my experience as coordinator of developing countries, including in Montreal, wanted to have a second commitment period, a legally mandated obligation that we have under the Kyoto Protocol is to have a second commitment period. What is a second commitment period? That is a period during which we will, the developed country parties will decide on the continuation of their mitigation targets, mitigation commitments. And when does the second commitment period start? It starts post-2012. The only post-2012 that we have in our negotiations is the start of the second commitment period for mitigation commitments of developed countries. But they thought, you know, and it's not a new thought, that maybe developing countries should do something about it. And developing countries are doing something about it. As a matter of fact, already in Kyoto, the Philippines has made submissions to show what it has been doing for mitigating climate change. One of the very few countries that gave submissions at the time of the negotiations of the Kyoto Protocol already. But it is not a commitment for developing countries. Why? Because of the very little responsibility that they bear in the creation of the problem of climate change, the accumulation of greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere. But in COP11 in Montreal, they started what they called a dialogue on long-term cooperative action. In Montreal in 2005, we said that these are not going to lead to negotiations. Well, guess what? In Bali, we decided that it was going to lead to negotiations. The Bali Roadmap, a two-track process. As a matter of fact, the travesty of the intergovernmental process already started in Bali. The Bali Action Plan, parts of it were negotiated in very small, selected groups already. Well, I was part of a senior level official, diplomatic, high-level negotiators at that time.